Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this session. This is called Financing the Energy Transition. So, as I said before, every presenter has 15 minutes to present. So, it depends from the presenter. You can decide if you want to speak for 15 minutes or 10 minutes plus 5 minutes of answer questions. My name is Letizia D'Angelo. I'm a researcher from RCM, Italy, and also from the National University of Ireland in Galway. So the first presenter is Eddie Streng, and we present a paper session called Data Collection to Support the Energy Efficiency Finance in the Building Sector. So welcome, Eddie. Okay, let me open your presentation.
Should I just click here? Or?
Yeah. Presentation. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. A pleasure to be here at Sustainable Places. And firstly, on behalf of Joule Assets and the NTRAC project, just like to say thank you to the organizers for having me. So my name is Eddie Streng and work for Joule Assets Europe. But today we'll be focusing on the H2020 project NTRAC. Quick word on Joule Assets as an organization first. So we work with facilitating innovative financing for sustainable energy projects in Europe and the UK. So we work with ESCO's project developers and assist them in their process of acquiring third-party finance. But we also work a lot with various R&D and publicly funded initiatives, such as the NTRAC project. We're also members of various policy and regulatory groups. But the main focus of today being NTRAC, where we look to increase energy efficiency investments through data collection and standardization. So during the 36 project months, which we are 12 months into, the consortium will look to address the lack of statistical data around energy costs and savings by creating an interoperable ecosystem of data and tools. So the challenge revolves around the lack of statistical data on the actual energy and cost savings, and the fact that the data that actually exists is only usable to a small part. The solution we look to enable through NTRAC is to meet this challenge by creating an interoperable ecosystem of data and tools to support refurbishment decision making. And we want to do this through designing a process that makes data input simpler, more attractive, and cost effective, while also making the outputs more valuable by making them compatible with emerging market leader applications, such as the EFIG Deep platform, our own Equal platform, and the Enter-Invest platform. But closer look at the challenges. To begin with, we have a data standardization challenge. Essentially, thanks to recent technology, market, and policy drivers, there is a rapid increase in the generation of building and energy data. But this data is still very hard to access and utilize because it's being housed in so many decentralized databases and in various formats. And as a result, as I mentioned, only a small part of this information can actually be analyzed, compared, and benchmarked to produce reliable evidence on the performance of energy efficiency investments. There's also a lack of open source operational databases. So EFIG actually mentioned this is in one of their reports, that one of the market-led approaches identified by them for increasing the supply of energy efficiency investment is the creation of an open source performance database and standardized processes. And they've also mentioned that this is something that has been asked for by a multitude of financial institutions. Then there is the challenge of enabling continuous data collection from public authorities. So large building portfolio owners, such as public authorities, actually already have the necessary energy and financial information about their buildings to evaluate energy efficiency investments performance. But most often the fact is that it's dispersed and managed in separate departments, and gathering this data is difficult. And there's another issue there, that building owners also have very little incentive to share data. Due to that, there's a high effort in sharing this data, or they generally have a low awareness of the value of the data, and there are generally some concerns about security and privacy as well. And the reason we're focusing on public buildings is because they represent around 12% by area of the EU building stock, and enabling this data collection would be a key issue to centralize information. There is as well a gap of available empirical data. So as a result, most of the current databases do not offer fully representative set of data, because there is insufficient data in certain building typologies. There are already a variability of tools providing these types of features and complementary services. The problem here really is that due to the lack of comparability and interoperability with other tools, it's very difficult for them to achieve a sufficient amount of users for successful commercial uptake. And so how we'll meet these challenges are through essentially, first of all, building on what we already have. So NTRAC builds on an existing proven infrastructure developed by CIMNE, which my colleague will talk to more about in the next presentation after mine. So we're building on that already existing infrastructure, and further on making the platform interoperable and complementary to the EFIG D platform, our own eQuad financing platform, and the Ener Invest platform. After that, intensive efforts will be put on promoting and incentivizing the widespread adoption of the platform. So making the data reporting attractive by considering user requirements requires heavy stakeholder engagement. NTRAC will as well develop extensive communication, dissemination, and exploitation activities. We will as well provide capacity building for both investors and building owners by means of workshops and targeted communication. And these activities will essentially focus on the use of the platform and how it can be used for supporting the decision making and de-risking of energy efficiency investments. And one of the biggest challenges is essentially to make the platform economically sustainable. So looking into business models and to develop these business models to ensure maximized value for the users and long-term sustainability for the platform as well. We don't want this to just be another great tool that actually works. We want it to, be something that has a longevity in it as well. So speaking of the platform, we have identified 3 core users for the platform, and those would be the building owners, financial institutions, and then policymakers. And there's a various valuable functionalities for these user types, from benchmarking and comparing both energy and financial performance of energy efficiency measures, to tracking the impact of subsidies and incentives as well. But looking more closely at the financial institutions, of which Joule Assets are leading the stakeholder engagement during the project duration, the ability to clearly analyze the savings, returns, and risks of energy efficiency measures in various settings would provide an overview previously hard to attain, and could provide new investment opportunities in areas previously avoided as well. One of the key aspects during the project is the stakeholder engagement with financial institutions. So Joule Assets are hosting a quarterly financial institutions forum, where we discuss the developments with the financial institutions and ensure that we are progressing in a way sustainable for them as well. And some results of these initial discussions you see in front of you. So what the financial institutions we have engaged are mostly asking for in a platform such as the NTRAC platform are first and foremost CO2 tracking. It's the single one mentioned most frequently. They all mentioned that it's one of their most important investment indicator, if not the main investment indicator. Impact measurement is extremely important. The ability to clearly portray the impact the implemented measure had in the buildings and report and return on investment of each measure rather than the entire project itself would be extremely valuable to all in determining the success rates of those measures. There's been, surprisingly enough as well, a great call to keep the platform simple and comprehensive. There's been many mentions of similar platforms currently existing today that they simply haven't used because they're not user-friendly. There's as well the analyzing of trends. They've all stated that currently they only invest in proven technologies, which makes sense. It's low risk, low due diligence, good returns. But the possibility in analyzing trends was stated by most that could possibly open up new investment areas to them and help de-risk technologies or energy efficiency measures, which they currently would avoid because they simply don't know enough about it. As well, the ability to use the platform to determine how far away a building is from receiving local subsidiary support, various grants, and recommendations on what to do with that as well. So thanks to this stakeholder feedback, we can ensure that we continue to develop a platform which will be valuable for them, and we feed all of it into the development as much as possible. One key element to get insight into is surrounding the user value proposition and exploring how to provide these services sustainably post-project duration. A quick look at the initial prototype of the NTRAC platform, just to mention that these are not the ready-made product. These are essentially to be viewed as mock-ups of what we see the platform could look like when fully developed. So here's the initial page. You have an overview of the various buildings, typologies that you can analyze in the NTRAC platform. You can, for example, on this slide, have a look at the energy efficiency measure, external wall insulation. You can see that there's 124 buildings with this measure, and you can have an overview of the various KPIs of how this measure is doing and how it's trending within the buildings that are housed in the NTRAC platform. Same with the buildings energy performance. You can see there buildings in this typology, hospitals, 24 buildings. You can have a look at an overview of the KPIs of these 24 hospitals within the platform and analyze the trends. As well, if you're an active user, you can see the number of your buildings. In this example, 570, number of energy efficiency measures, only 87 within 64 buildings with those energy efficiency measures. You would have a table league with your own buildings to know which ones are performing best, as well as compared to similar buildings within the NTRAC platform. You can analyze the KPI specifically per building and how it's performing compared to the rest of the buildings in your portfolio or compared to similar buildings within the platform. Here we also intend to give a more detailed view of each building, so building information, data charts such as historical data, benchmarking with similar buildings, model forecast versus actual for energy, finance, emissions, as well as providing recommendations based on the building typology and looking at similar buildings within the platform on what could be done to actually improve your building based on that data within the NTRAC platform. Yeah, that's pretty much it on those mock-ups for now. How can you be involved? So as I mentioned, we're hosting a financial institutions forum for financial institutions. Similarly, we do as well have building owner forums. So we're collecting feedback from both stakeholder groups on a quarterly basis. Other than that, feel free to follow and engage as you wish. That will be all for me. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby, for your nice presentation. Are there any questions? Let me check if
All right.
is there a question from the chat. No? Sorry? Oh, okay. Okay, no question. I have one question for you.
Okay.
Which kind of KPI did you evaluate, and then if you use one weight to compare them?
So the KPIs that we are evaluating are, well, on the financial side, it's the standard KPIs that a financial institution would look for when evaluating a project for third-party financing. So we're talking our internal rate of return, return of investment, NPV and such. But this is also something that we continuously engage both stakeholder groups in terms of building owners and financial institutions to just keep up to date on what we are actually reporting on. But for now, it's very much in line with the methodology of already existing platforms such as the Deep platform, for example. So it all very much works on an interoperable way, really.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
So let's continue with Edgar Martínez. The title of this paper is the ENTRAC Energy Efficiency Performance Tracking Problem Platform for Benchmarking Savings and Investment in Buildings, Data Model Development. So let me open your presentation. Okay, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Edgar Martínez. I'm here representing the CIMNE Beegroup, and I'm going to talk about the data model development of the ENTRAC project. First of all, well, CIMNE is the International Center for Numerical Methods and Engineering, and the Beegroup is concerned about the building, energy, and environment, with research lines such as demand and response, energy empowerment and user behavior, big data analytics for energy efficiency in buildings, biodigesters, and energy positive buildings. As my colleague mentioned, the interoperability is the challenge of ENTRAC. And with this slide and this collage of icons, I'm going to explain what interoperability means, right? With a simple example. Saying that I am the energy manager that belongs to an organization which has a number of buildings. I have access to energy bills, electricity. Well, the pointer is this, right? Okay. So I can have access to the electricity bills, or maybe I have a contract with a smart meter company or a smart meter manager company. And also I have information about the natural gas consumption, the cadastral information, the energy performance certificates, but I can access by using different platforms, right? And maybe I can download that data in different formats as well. So the interoperability is just that, is to join them all into a single platform. The the NTRAC platform. And we're going to do it by creating a common and open data model. And then with that data harmonized and cleaned and so on, we will improve the decision-making process with some analytics, right? So the common open data model will be created with the purpose to feed all the input data, right? The easiest way to understand what a data model is to think that the data is saved into a number of spreadsheets. So if I want to access the energy consumption from the energy bills, the utility providers as a query, this data is connected through keys to different tables, and then we will reach to the information, right? So the utility probably has a data model, but another platform could have a different data model, and the cadastre a different one. So we are developing a data model that could be able to upload all of this information in a single platform. And for this purpose, we develop a methodology that it consists in 4 activities that has sub-activities, and some of them are in parallel. The first activity is to identify, categorize, and analyze the data requirements. This is done by defining the use cases and identifying the data needs. So far, we've identified 3 main stakeholders and 10 different use cases. Monitor building energy and environmental performance, and get recommendations of energy efficiency measures are the main interest of building owners and operators. But this benchmarking, building energy performance, energy efficiency measures, and energy efficiency investments, and the tracking of them is also something that concerns to financial institutions. Yeah, policymakers are more interested in getting an assessment of the energy efficiency programs and policies, and the overview of building stock performance and its trends. But they share the interest with financial institutions with the assessment of impact of grant funding for energy efficiency. And last but not least, all of the stakeholders are interested in getting assessment of non-energy benefits from the energy efficiency investments. And the data sources we have so far are coming from 2 pilots in Spain and Bulgaria. So we will have access to the cadastre, GemWeb, which is an energy accounting platform. That is a platform of the electricity. And the CE3X is another platform that we can get the energy performance certificates, and also the governmental institutions such as the ICAEN, that's the Energy Institute of the Catalonia region. And from Bulgaria, we have the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Sources Fund, and the NPEEMB, that is a project about the energy efficiency in multifamiliar buildings. With all of this information analyzed and defined, we move to the next stage that consists in parallel of 2 activities. the definition of of the conceptual data model, and the creation of the UML version. That is only, well, that is a representation, a visual representation of this definition of the conceptual model. Within this data model, we defined classes, subclasses, attributes, and taxonomies, and its relationships. And we made use of semantic technologies to do so. Ontologies, dictionaries, and more, right? The ontologies are a semantic technology that has as its core that is something similar to a sentence, where we have a subject, a predicate, and an object. For instance, here I have the object, that is the organization. The is responsible for the connector is the predicate, and the building is the object. Both of them are the classes that will be in the future something similar to the tables in the data model, right? This can get a higher level of complexity, as you can see, but there are some ontologies already developed in the building domain, such as the SAREF for building, and the Beamer ontologies. So we're going to make use of these ontologies in order to get our data model. And the dictionaries, the main dictionary we're using is the BEATS, that is the Building Energy Data Exchange Specification, and the IFC data model, and the Investor Confidence Project, to borrow from them the terminology regarding financial indicators. As I mentioned before, we make use of the SAREF ontology, and I'm presenting this as an example of how we use the principle of the reuse principle of the ontologies. So the core of this SAREF ontology is the device, right? That has, or that makes a measurement related to a property and is measuring a unit of measure. This device also has a state, and then you can find these classes applied to our data model. Yeah, here on the left side, we have the NTRAC data model that is a little bit complex, but I zoom in exactly where the SAREF classes are located, right? This is also a process that we did with the other ontologies. In addition, we had to align the terminology. And for a better understanding of this point, we have, again, the energy bills here, where in the tables has the different column names and stores all the data of a building. For instance, this building here will have a typology, right? But in our data model, these attributes must make use a different name. Maybe we cannot call it just type, because type could mean whatever, right? So in order to be more clear and concise, we changed this name into another, which is the building use type, right? In different tables, we will find different names that we can align to our data model. And finally, we will have the attributes also aligned. Something similar will happen with the taxonomies. Yeah, which take us to the evaluate version activity. Yeah, this activity is done by cross-checking against the data sources and the compatibility. Yeah, this is done by looking back to what we just did in the first activity, and analyze if this complies or not complies with the relationships of the third-party databases, right? If the data model needs an update, we have to iterate again and again, right? So after 14 iterations, we reached this monster, right? But with the intention to interoperate all of the data inputs, right? This is a process that is not over yet. What's going to happen next? Yeah, we are here in this pre-process step, and the storage and the data storage step is connected to the implementation. Yeah, so we are dealing with this with some kinds of issues because of the architecture we're using has to be compatible with the ontologies we just use. And at the end, we will have all the data organized and ready to analyze. And then with the data ready to use, we will have the visualization and the API that will connect to other platforms as well. Finally, this is our data architecture we use within the CIMNE Beegroup. And that's it. Thank you. So I'm open for questions.
Are there any questions on your side? No? Okay, let me check here. No Q&A, no session. Okay, I have one question for you, sorry. Did you use a particular graphical language to build your ontology?
Well, the idea is to, well, we're using my presentation mic. Yes, okay. So this is the basic architecture we're using. It's based on in Hadoop and the, well, okay, what I just did. Okay, here. Our database for long-term storage is going to be programmed with the Apache HBase, and the analytics will be driven with R, Python, and Hive. But in order to make this compatible with the ontologies, we're also developing a connection with the RDF and the semantic web technologies. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now it's the turn of Paola Zerilli. Is there Paola here? Okay, not here. I think it's not in the online session as well. So we can go ahead with the last paper that is called Smart Governance, an investigation into participatory budgeting models that is presented by Sandra Treija. Is Sandra here? Okay, perfect. So here, okay. Yeah, no worries. I leave the chair. No worries. I show you.
Kanske där saknar. So can we? So, dear participants, my name is Uģis Bratuškins, and that's my pleasure to present the research of a team from Riga Technical University from Latvia on participatory budgeting models. So it is a bit confusing since we are included in the session of financing the energy transition, but maybe this will be intellectual energy, energy that combines intellectual power of people in projects of urban development. So today I'm here together with the team of researchers, Professor Sandra Treija and Alisa Koroļova from Faculty of Architecture and Arnis Lektauers from Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology. So our story is on up-to-date tools of public involvement in the activities of urban regeneration. And one of issues we are interested in is also a role of academia in knowledge transfer to promote urban regeneration activities. The research of public behavior certify that the more involved people become in various development activities in their vicinity, neighborhood, street, other spatial structure, so the more satisfied they become with the result of the urban activities and with living conditions in particular. So it is more and more important to note that municipalities introduce public participation programs to improve communication between decision makers and the wider society based on bottom-up governance principles, and many of them are focused on participatory budgeting. At present, ICT-based governance presents a collection of technologies, involved parties, policies, practices, resources, social norms, and so on and so forth, in order to interact, to support city government activities, and it is linked to good practices in engaging citizens in transparent, inclusive, participatory, and accountable governance activities. So it is also important to note that despite advantages of progressive and inclusive city governance, participatory budgeting, that is comparatively new activity, sometimes faces challenges to ensure collaboration between different city development organizations, departments, and those residents involved. So it's important to identify actors in participatory budgeting approach, as well as opportunities and challenges in terms of relations between organizational process and digital technologies as the means of enabling communication and collaboration between actors. Our research is more focused on detailed case study in Riga, in Latvia, but it is also compared to similar participatory budgeting processes in other cities in the Baltic Sea region. So you can see the geographical layout here. Our study covers most Finnish and Baltic region, the area that is about the same or a bit less size than Scandinavia, and is located at the east coast of the Baltic Sea. And a more detailed experience of 3 municipalities in 3 countries is analyzed: Tampere in Finland, Tartu in Estonia, and Riga in Latvia. So one of the active municipalities in the region is Tartu in Estonia, where participatory budgeting activities have started already about 10 years ago in 2012. And the main stages of these activities include submission of ideas gathered from inhabitants, analysis and assessment of themes, feasibility check and discussions before the decision is made, and the selection of the ideas that have collected more votes are stated. This process is based on open source content management system Drupal. And since it is quite already old experience, one of the drawbacks is that this platform at that time was not well integrated in any cartographic services, and that caused or may cause some difficulties in effective online update of information. Otherwise, the system was working very well and has proved itself as effective tool in governments of the projects. The other experience is from Tampere, from Finland, where participatory budgeting started already in 2010, but from 2020 it has been switched to an interactive web platform, Decidim, that originally was designed for Barcelona in order to involve and empower citizen participation in strategic planning, in participatory budgeting, in initiatives and consultations and participatory processes. So this platform is very well linked to cartographic information that is provided by Here, formerly a Nokia product, and also has proved its efficiency. And now I would like to invite my colleague Sandra to tell more about experience in Riga.
Thank you. In Riga? Yes. In Riga, several funding programs has developed during last 5 years. Since 2016, the city of Riga is launching a program called Neighborhoods Initiative to promote public participation and strengthen the sense of community. In terms of this program, the city organized 4 contests a year to fund projects submitted by neighborhood community associations and others related NGOs or institutions. This approach was highly accepted by different actors. And in 2019, the Riga city launched a new participatory budgeting program for Riga neighborhood development project realization. The main aim is to foster neighborhood regeneration and creation of identity while supporting local inhabitant participation in the development of the area. To involve the academia in this process of participatory budgeting in 2019, Riga City started the new initiative, Multifunctional Public Open Green Space Development in Riga's neighborhoods. Students from 2 universities were involved in the process of preliminary studies, communication with local inhabitants, and development of project proposals. These programs realized by using digital platform based on open source content management system Drupal. This system is integrated with Google Maps web mapping service for visualizing of GIS data. And we could see that growing numbers of total votes and the votes for accepted projects could be an indicator illustrated the successful development of this program. A question regarding the stakeholders involved and role of each actor is topical in the practice of participatory budgeting. And participatory budgeting process in Riga identifies the most potential stages of involvement of universities: preliminary studies, discussion with stakeholders, collection and analysis of ideas and proposal development. For discussion several points are identified. One relates involved actors and especially driving forces. Individuals, NGOs, municipalities, and universities play different roles and have different responsibilities in different programs. And flexibility seems as common principle in all analyzed cases. Another point is definition of key aspects related to the organizatory process, such as synergy of top-down and bottom-up principles for reaching of common goals. Another important point relates to the digital environment of the participatory budgeting programs. As these programs has been realized in the digital environment, such preconditions as accessibility of digital tools, user-friendly approach, and adaptation of level of knowledge of users are essential for effective involvement of inhabitants. And as well as the role of universities. It seems come more complex and integrate in all stages of the participatory budgeting models. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks.
No, I have a question for you. Sorry. Okay. So, as I suppose you promote this initiative to several cities, no? So, did you receive the same kind of request for both the cities, or do you have separate requests? I mean, which was the response from the citizen?
Well, yeah, thanks for the question. So, in fact, we arrived at the conclusion that it's a quite a complicated process since there is municipality involved on the one hand and citizens involved on the other hand, and there is always a problem who is maybe doing initiative and then who is supporting and how it works. So we arrived at the conclusion that in fact it is a synergy between top-down process, that is maybe such kind of governance in planning and development, and the bottom-up process that is based on initiative of population. So the municipality addressed the university, our institution, in order to support in brainstorming and development of ideas and also in some terms evaluation of the bottom-up initiatives that were coming from local inhabitants, from people who just started with their initiatives to arrange playground for kids or do some other activities to improve their environment surroundings. So we agreed. We involved students. We made several versions and proposals, and inhabitants evaluated them. And with the help of municipalities, and there was a poll, which is a winning idea and which will be realized. And so we have first successful stories of this process where the ideas of inhabitants with the support of our students in some design proposals and that are realized, and now people are starting to use these spaces. So yes, I can say that the first outcome is quite promising, and now municipality has addressed well. Could you just go on with this very good pattern, and we will look for another cases, another places where to develop this initiative. Of course, it is more based on our Riga experience. So we gathered some theoretical information from other cities in the region, because these tendencies are quite similar. However, the tools, how they are developed, they still differ.
Okay, perfect. Thanks again. Yeah.
It was interesting for us that municipality evaluates this approach to involve citizens in smart governance by participatory budgeting is a growing tendency. And at the moment, this relates as we could see in this presentation, in the regeneration of neighborhoods, in organization of public space, but the further ideas is growing wider with these topics, and not only about such topics, but as well how to spend public money. An example in health topics, in health issue, how to spend public money in different infrastructure projects, and so on, more and more and more. Therefore, these pointed questions about responsibilities of actors, about digital environment, about involvement of universities is of growing importance in our region.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we can finish this session. So, sorry, thanks for participating in this session called Financing in the Energy Transition. I hope you'll continue to enjoy this conference. Thank you.